Harry Potter. We know it's a big franchise for sure, but it's been dormant for a while. They're rebooting it, right? And that Hogwarts Legacy, well, it was a big video game. It wasn't supposed to be. Remember that? Remember how all of the screeching people online told us it was a hateful game? Don't buy it. Boycott it. J.K. Rowling, ew. Well, it didn't matter. It broke records anyway. And it turns out that the Potterverse may be rocking and rolling, and Star Wars may just be, well, falling. Can you believe that the Harry Potter franchise may in fact be pulling at least 5 times more interest online than Star Wars? Star Wars! We'll explain right now. Explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve is what we try to do each and every day here on the WDW Pro channel. And to do that, we often have to bring in people who are experts in areas that I am not. And we have a panel of true experts here to assist us with what we're going to try to do. That is, figure out, is Harry Potter truly that much more popular than Star Wars? We're talking about at least 5 times more popular at the moment. It's hard to ascertain, but we're going to do it. And we're going to do it for you because we're keeping you ahead of that culture curve each and every day. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. So click that notification bell. All right, joining us, first up, an expert in all things Star Wars and the lore thereof. It is, in fact, Lorne. Lorne from That Park Place, welcome back to the channel. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
All right. And Steven, Fat Steven that is, not Skinny Steven, that's a story for another day. But Fat Steven, also of That Park Place, and the guy who's behind all of the wonderful artwork, both for my channel, for Valiant Renegade's channel, and for That Park Place. Steven is here. He does all kinds of gaming streams, stuff that you guys need to go check out right away. Steven is here to explain the video game side of this. It'll make sense in just a moment. Steven, how are you?
I'm being held against my will, but I'm more than happy to help you out with this video.
Shut up, Steven. Get back to work. All right,
Yes,
now here we go.
back in the basement.
we kid, folks. We love Steven. All right, but seriously, Steven, get back to work. All right, so we are going to be looking today at, this chart. You probably saw it as we started the video. And let me move these guys over to the left because you want to be able to see the chart, actually. So this is the chart that I have been looking at, and I've been looking at it today in disbelief. And yes, this is an exclusive on this channel. I don't think that anybody else has covered this because we had to do a little digging to discover that it exists. And the existing thing is that Hogwarts Legacy, yes, a very popular game, but it dwarfs Jedi Survivor in ways that are just unbelievable. And as I said, this stretches credulity. So I looked at it, and I've tried this many different ways. Folks, you've got the ability out there. If you want to go to Google Trends and try it any way you want, you'll be able to maneuver this chart a little bit. You can make it shift a little depending on what search terms you use and what duration you put in. But you're going to find the same exact pattern over and over and over again. And that is that Hogwarts Legacy is far, far more searched online than Jedi Survivor. The reason that matters is because when we are looking to find out what interests the world, the society at large, and in this case, specifically the United States, well, we can ascertain very easily what is very popular based on search engine results. How many people are searching for things? Now, the search terms that we're using here are Jedi Survivor and Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm doing that for a reason, that being that Jedi Survivor is the term that pulls up the best results for this game, if you can believe it, and then Hogwarts Legacy, I have actually stripped it away from being the actual game searched in, and I've made it be a search term instead, so it will equal the very best that Star Wars has. That's in the weeds a little bit. But if we look down here, this is over the last 90 days, and this is just, again, unbelievable. We can see that the highest point for searches in North America, February 11th, Hogwarts Legacy, that's when it reaches its 100 point, 100% of the chart, right? So that's the highest point that it ever reaches. And we can see that even still now, it's hanging in there around 5% of that February 11th heights. But in comparison, Jedi Survivor, landing often at -1 to 1% of that original high. And today even, remember, Jedi Survivor is coming out soon. Hogwarts Legacy has been out. Still, today, it is often Hogwarts Legacy quintupling the searches online versus Jedi Survivor. So you might say, well, what if you change the chart, Pro? You're manipulating things. Okay, let's change it to 30 days. All right, if we change it to 30 days, everybody see this? It's the exact same thing, right? Still, Hogwarts Legacy, 100%. Jedi Survivor, 8%. You get closer to now when it should be. Jedi Survivor should be rising and surpassing because it's about to release. And yet, just days ago, Hogwarts Legacy, 56% of its high. Jedi Survivor, 12%. It's the same thing. And then you say, well, what about the last 7 days? Surely it's different. And, well, we're just not going to pull that up, of course. It's like that moment that Elon Musk tried to hit with the window on the Cybertruck, and it decided not to do what it was supposed to do. But if we get it to pull up now, look at this. Jedi Survivor trying. There's a few times, like late in the night, I suppose, or early morning, it can barely touch it. But usually, no. Hogwarts Legacy just dwarfing this thing. And that's not what we should see if Jedi Survivor was going to be a popular title. We're going to talk about these two games. Before we do, let me hand it over. Stephen, let's go to you first. Okay. Stephen, do you think, given the vast difference in online searches for these two games, that this can be extrapolated out to mean more than just two games and their popularities, but rather that this can be extrapolated out to have some kind of significance for the franchises at large?
That wouldn't make sense going head-to-head because, as you said, Hogwarts has already come out. I think this has to do with the popularity and the power. I think Hogwarts is going to last quite a while because we're still on the cusp of waiting for the last gens to still get their release. Star Wars as a whole isn't as strong as it used to be, and I think this game is showing the suffering because of it. And I think it has to do with the way we've seen the series, the lack of films, the shows, and Disney as a whole. And I think Hogwarts is overtaking for that reason because it's popular, it's there, and even for this long, that's crazy. I think it's more of like the crown being taken away. The terminology that goes on right now is that Harry Potter is this generation's Star Wars, and this graph kind of proves it.
Well, that graph is just, it's unbelievable. Really, when I go back to it, it's comical. Lauren,
never thought
go ahead, Stephen.
I never thought I'd see a day where Harry Potter would overtake a Star Wars franchise, especially in gaming. Like something with Jedi Soul Survivor coming out, it would be more prominent. This is crazy.
Yeah. Lauren, you and I have talked many times about what's going on with Star Wars that is perhaps causing this precipitous drop-off in interest. And before people say, oh my gosh, they've got one chart, like one stinking chart, and that's what they're going to base this off of. Let me say this. We did a video a day or two ago, maybe a day ago. It's hard to keep track of all this, but we did a video where we looked at IMDb ratings for the Mandalorian episodes, and we found this very fascinating phenomenon. That being that if you looked at the number of ratings for the first two seasons, what you would find is that there were perhaps double, and in some cases triple, and in some cases even more, people taking the time to review those episodes versus season 3. And you might say, well, come on, Pro, they've had more time to rate the first two seasons. Like, no, wait a minute. Most people review the episode in the first 24 to 48 hours, and then they forget about it. And so you went and you looked and you said, okay, well, in the first season or two, you'd get 30,000 reviews for an episode. You get 40,000 reviews for an episode. Now, this season, 12,000, 10,000, 15,000. People can go look at this. Anybody out there, you can go look at IMDb and see. It seems to me that across a number of different domains, it's clear that Star Wars is lagging. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's really three factors at play here. One is one that we've kind of been talking about for a while, and it's why in the community there's a bit of a debate about whether or not the sequel trilogy will eventually have its diehard fans that become ascendant, kind of like the prequels did. There's a lot of people that make the argument that this generation is going to love these, they're going to grow up, they're going to show it to their kids, and it's going to be a big deal. But I think what Star Wars is failing to do is generational capture. The sequel trilogy did not imprint on the younger generation. You can tell that because the merchandise sales are all off. They aren't buying the toys, they aren't buying the games, they're not reading the books. So you failed to have that critical hook in there. And you don't have something like the Clone Wars to try and fix the damage. They may be trying to do that sort of with The Mandalorian right now, but I can tell you right now, it's not going to work. For one thing, because it's taking too long. By the time they get out to where this next movie is going to be, you're 3 years out. At that point, you're, 6 to 7 years past the end of the sequel trilogy? You've lost that generation. And so you're not going to have them to pass it on to the next generation. Another thing that I think is going on is the marketing for Jedi Survivor, if we're talking about the games particularly.
Sure.
The first game was beloved by a lot of people. A lot of people liked it. There are some people that didn't like some of the minor sequel references that they made in there, but generally speaking, it was very favorably reviewed. They've opted to go mystery box for Jedi Survivor, which I think is baffling. Their marketing campaign has all been focusing on the gameplay, but told you nothing about the story. And I think the reason for that is that they're wanting it to be a surprise, but you can tell from the imagery that is provided that they're going to have tie-ins to the High Republic. They're trying to resuscitate that portion of the brand as well. That's also not going to work. People do not care about the High Republic, and this game is not going to make them care about the High Republic. The third thing that I think you have going on is that the Harry Potter franchise did do that generational capture. They caught an entire generation of kids who are now of an age that they're having their own kids. They're passing it on to them so that they can live this fantasy as well. But the important thing about that is that Harry Potter appealed to both boys and girls. It got both of them, while Star Wars is deciding to try and shift the demographic to only appeal to one half of the audience. So, of course, you're losing people.
Well, Lorna, I've got you're just not going to believe what I have found out, and we're not going to discuss it in this video. This is going to be next week, so you'll be coming back. You don't know this yet. This is the first time you're hearing this as well. But I've had somebody from inside the industry send me information about why the decision was made to end The Mandalorian Season 3 in the way that it was ended. It's fascinating stuff. It is market-driven, although I'm not sure that it is market-wise. But clearly, The Mandalorian and its drop has got to be playing a part in, and maybe beyond the Book of Boba Fett and/or the Kenobi series. All of that has to be playing into this dropping of Star Wars as an evergreen, highly popular franchise. Once the greatest and biggest franchise in the world. So, Lauren, what were your thoughts? This is the first time the audience is going to get to hear this from you. You were traveling and unable to give us a review of the final episode. What are your thoughts on The Mandalorian and the way that it wrapped up?
It's real complicated. I haven't fully settled on my own thoughts fully because I've been going back and forth. I have now watched the last 2 episodes twice. I took some flack because I had only viewed the next to last episode once when I gave my review. I was pretty salty about the previous week's episode when I did that.
You usually do a baker's dozen, right?
I usually do at least twice. I want to get my first impression, and then I want to pay attention to the details and kind of get things in order in my mind. And I just didn't have time to do that before the trip. And so that last review that I gave was probably not at my best. I know some people have been taking some issues with my takes lately, but
well, that's part of getting bigger, Lauren. I mean, people are really paying attention to what you have to say.
Well, I think what I would say about, I don't know that you can discuss the finale of The Mandalorian without discussing the entire season. I just don't see how you can do it. I would say I did think that the last 2 episodes were significantly better than episode 6 of this season.
Well, that would be hard not to, yes.
But and there was some beautiful imagery. I thought that there was some great set design. I kind of got into some disagreements with some people about the fight choreography. I actually quite liked some of the fight choreography in episodes 7 and 8.
I was impressed by the CGI, Lauren. The CGI was very good.
I thought the Imperial base looked fantastic. And I think there were some interesting story beats that were done. But the impression that I've gotten from the season as a whole is that it feels to me like somebody decided that we need to get to the Avengers event of these crossover for the shows as soon as possible. We can't afford to wait. And so they were trying to diverge this season from doing the Adventure of the Week episode and do an overarching plot line that was going to take place across the entire season. But they sort of almost derailed that by minimizing Din's influence as a character, almost ignoring the retaking of Mandalore for the bulk of the season, for the middle part. And then when you got to that victory, it felt too easy and hollow. Also, they're throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall with what they did here with the reveal of Gideon's clones and Moff Gideon himself, and whether or not this was a clone that died or whether it's him. The feeling for me is that they sort of wanted to reset the show, erase Gideon as a threat because they need to get to Thrawn. They do want to get back to bounty hunting, and I think that actually is wise, because I think that this ensemble show isn't working so much. Maybe it's better to get back to Din doing bounty hunting things. And I think that they could go a direction if they're dealing with the Imperial Remnant. There's all those people on the Shadow Council that were displayed. They're drawing an awful lot from some of the old EU. There's an awful lot of stuff from the Dark Forces series. They've made Moff Gideon kind of their canon version of both Rom Mock and Gallic Fyar from Jedi Outcast. They're taking all of those plot lines and assigning it now to Mock and Din, which is kind of interesting. Some of those Shadow Council members, you've got Pelion, which is going to lead to Thrawn. There was at least one person that I thought could be Warlord Zinj. If they wanted to do a more adult Mandalorian, which they're not really giving us indications that that's what they want, but if they're going to do bounty hunting, I'd be kind of interested if they wanted to do something like an Inglourious Bastards, where I've been saying for quite a while that the Mandalorian story that they've been portraying is taking a lot of its root from Jewish history. And so you can go all the way from the Exodus and the retaking of the homeland now to, if you're doing post-World War II, this is the Jewish fantasy of hunting down the Nazi collaborators. And so that could be interesting, but I have a feeling that they're probably not really going to do that. They might toy.
I'm feeling more like Book of Boba Fett is going to be season 3 coming to us. So has me worried.
Sure.
Yeah, go, Stephen.
I have a third prospect here, is that it's going to change the aspect and it's going to turn into a reality show like Dog the Bounty Hunter. And it's pretty much going to follow a shoulder cam of Mando and Baby Yoda. Just, like cops. And that's what's going to happen.
There's worse. It could be Honey Boo Boo, I suppose. So I guess it's better than that.
I do think... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm going to say, but I do think they need to focus more on the relationship between Jin and Baby Yoda and stop having all these outside forces from other series convoluting the storyline that they don't seem to grasp fully. Am I right on that?
Yes, and I think that one problem that they have is that they are sort of limited by the Grogu puppet. They're trying to have him do more acrobatics, and they're trying to have him do walking and flipping, and it just doesn't look real great. I think a way you could try to get around that is if they did a time jump in the future, but I'm not sure how far they want to advance that storyline. I do think that they're going to try and move towards Thrawn as quickly as possible because I think they have to. To me, it feels like they're trying to get to the Avengers. I do think it was a mistake to take Mandalore so easily, relatively speaking. I think it was a mistake to destroy the Darksaber. And I think that at this point, I'm not sure that I'm interested in season 4. I don't know that I'm compelled to watch. I'm certainly not like I was at the end of season 2.
I think you're right, and I think that was a decision they've made to go after a different audience. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. But I want to go to Stephen on this one. Stephen, for those who are out there saying, "Oh, come on, seriously, we've got 2 bits of evidence." Still, we got to say that Jedi Survivor will be fine. Well, here's another piece of evidence for you. All you out there who are not convinced by a chart that shows Hogwarts Legacy beating it like 100-1 in some places and 5-1 even when Jedi Survivor is preparing to launch. This out of GameSpot.com by Jenny Zing. Star Wars Jedi Survivor Xbox Digital Edition pre-orders discounted. Not something you would expect to see for a game that is popular. Why in the world would they be discounting? But here's what they've got. Survivor will be released on April 28th It's about 6 days away, depending on when you're watching this video. And if you're still looking for a copy, Xbox Digital Edition pre-orders are discounted by $10 over at Newegg. Use the promo code, and it tells you all how to do it. But they're starting to give away these discounts now for the game, and you don't typically see that from a game that's very popular and doesn't need discounts to try to sell. Stephen, have you? Is this a sign of worry? You think that they're already starting to roll out discounts, and we're not even to release day yet?
See, that's a tricky thing, because usually when you see new game releases, like, say, whether it's Dead Island or Jedi Survivor, usually you see it in bundles when you're, like, buying a PC or something like that. I don't usually see discount codes unless their stock is overwhelming that they put too much faith in the game to actually sell. And it seems to be, more focused on Xbox than anything else. I haven't seen it on
Well, so
PS4.
far it's only for Xbox, but, you would presume or assume, perhaps, that as one console goes, so go the others over time. We don't know that to be for sure. Maybe it's really not selling well on Xbox. Maybe that's what's going on here. We're guessing why they would do this, but you don't see. I mean, here's the thing that usually happens. What usually happens is that if a game does poorly, after the release date, you'll start to see some major discounts, usually hidden inside some sort of serious promotion that is meant to say to fans, "Oh no, it's doing fine. We always had this promotion plan." But for it to happen before the game even comes out, that's an odd one.
Yeah, unless it's like sites that are reselling keys or reselling pre-orders from people, like CD keys and stuff like that. That it's usually where I would usually go, or anyone usually goes where they want to find a game cheaper. But this isn't. I think this is out of the ordinary, especially if it's just on the Xbox Game Store and nowhere else. It seems maybe they're not getting the sales they projected on Xbox, and they're trying to entice people in. But if it's just on the standard editions and not on the higher editions, like say with your pre-order bonuses, it might not do so well. And I think also we're at a time now where people are waiting to see the first reviews, the first gameplays,
that's a good point.
Before they actually do the purchase. No one wants to drop, like I'm in Canada, right? I don't want to drop $100 for a standard edition up to $130 for the deluxe or the premium edition, just to be going, I now have a digital doorstop. This is great, because if anyone knows PlayStation's policies, you can't even test the game or even, I think, download the game once you purchase it if you want a refund.
And this is made by EA, correct? Electronic Arts?
Yes, they still have the Star Wars franchise properties.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think many people trust them. They've got about the same level of admiration that Disney has. Is that fair to say?
Well,
the Battlefront 2 loot boxes.
It's Respawn Entertainment that's under the EA banner. And so they have a bit better reputation, partially because of how Jedi Fallen Order came out and really surprised people. So they don't have as much of the EA stink on them as they might otherwise have.
And I suppose then it comes down to, has the story group at Lucasfilm or Lucasfilm proper had the ability to get in there and force their hand in putting in this High Republic content that people don't necessarily want? So, all right, let's talk about Hogwarts Legacy. This out of Fandom Wire by Subham Mandal. Hogwarts Legacy defies all odds, generates more than $850 million in revenue, more than the first $811 million Fantastic Beasts movie. And again, we've said it before, we'll say it again, it's not even out on many of the consoles. It's only out on some. When it hits the Nintendo Switch, get ready. Here's the article. Hogwarts Legacy stood unscathed by all the controversy surrounding it before its release. Isn't that funny? The game only took 2 weeks to collect a whopping collection of more than 850 million. It even stands as the most watched single-player game of all time on Twitch. The first 2 weeks collection even broke the lifetime collection of 811 million made by 2016's Fantastic Beasts, and where to find them. And note that was in 2 weeks. Now, we're far beyond that. This game has obviously clearly broken the billion mark. It's going to continue on. I would not be surprised if it breaks the 2 billion mark. I would not be surprised if it breaks lots more than that, because there's just no telling. There is no ceiling for this game. And when you consider video games and the way they work, this could be a Skyrim situation where this game is re-released and remastered for a decade. So this is the kind of game that if you tell me, hey, Pro, this has a shot at making $5 billion over its lifetime, I'll say, sure, I'll buy that. And it's in the top 5 of all-time video game releases in terms of money. Stephen, what made this game so popular beyond just being a Harry Potter game?
The controversy. That helped a lot because a lot of people were just on things like Twitter and just saying, if you do this, you're a horrible person. So people bought 2 copies or 3 copies or bought copies for their friends.
You're saying that the screeching ninnies out there, that they have they didn't just have zero influence on purchasing, they had a negative influence in the direction they wanted to go. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. They put their foot where their mouth was and helped make money. And for good reason. I got this game midnight release, and I played the heck out of it for about 2 to 3 weeks, and I loved it. And I'm like, my Harry Potter knowledge is pretty much the movies, right? So when I dived into here and I started diving in, I was like, there's a lot of content here. The game is not perfect, but it is fantastic for a lot of people wanting that wizard lifestyle, and that it nails it. If you can't go to Universal Parks, pop open the game and make your own park within your own adventure, and this game offers it because nothing is really linear. You have full reign to do what you want. That's the good thing, and I think that's why this game is so popular. And we're still waiting for Switch, PS4, and Xbox to drop, and you're going to see that graph jump again. And then you can
it's going to be like a total relaunch. I mean, those are not small platforms to release on. Certainly not the Switch.
No.
Now, Lauren, we were talking earlier about the situation with The Mandalorian and what you think they're doing, but I want to present something to you. So let's play out a little game here. Where I think they were going before they made whatever change this was, at the end of the second season, they had by far, I mean, the ratings for that were insane. The hype around it was insane. The IMDb score is insane, and I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes, so that's why I say IMDb. The number of people engaged in reviewing that was insane. Everything was at a level that Star Wars had not seen in decades, right? Maybe The Force Awakens at the very beginning, maybe it reached that kind of popularity, but honestly, I think Luke returning in a heroic way actually eclipsed The Force Awakens in terms of how excited everybody was. And so what I think we could have received that may have fixed this, and again, let's go back to this chart so everybody sees what we're talking about here. Okay, red chart is Hogwarts Legacy, the hottest thing that the Harry Potter franchise has right now, and the blue is Jedi Survivor, what should be the hottest thing coming up right now, and it's basically flatline. It's never come off that flat line. So, Lauren, what we could have had, and I think would have changed this whole situation that Star Wars has, and perhaps would have completely changed the trajectory where it would be back as one of the biggest franchises in the world. Can you imagine if the entire third season had been the Mandalorians trying to unite in order to take back Mandalore, and at the same time we get cutaways to Luke Skywalker, perhaps Ahsoka as well, but perhaps not, but at least Luke Skywalker training Grogu as a Padawan, and then having at the end of this Grogu deciding that he has to go back and save the Mandalorians. Perhaps they're stuck in a situation where they cannot win, and who knows, maybe Luke joins and maybe doesn't. But can you imagine the excitement that would have been held through the entire season 3? People waiting to find out, would Luke come at the end? Would Grogu, what decision would he make? Would the Mandalorians actually be able to overtake it? Would they all die? Because it's a possibility, right? That could be the way the show that ends. That would explain some stuff for the sequel trilogy, sure. What do you think would have happened then versus what we got, where this turned into children's content, stuff looking like Alice in Wonderland out of the Disney Channel from the 90s? What would the difference have been if we had gotten that instead?
Well, I'd have to say it depends. I think you have to be careful about leaning on Luke too much. I think we want to see Luke, but this isn't the Luke show. It's supposed to be the Mandalorian show.
Okay, but hold up, Lauren. And I know sometimes in the chat they'll say, let Lauren talk, and I fully agree. But I want to send you in a direction on that, and you can finish your thought. But if you wouldn't mind to hit this thing too. At this point, perhaps we need the Luke show. Would you say that?
Separately, sure, and possibly making cameos once or twice. But I'm wary, especially with all of the stunt casting that they've done, that they're relying on that. They're using these guest stars and these other people that they're bringing in as a crutch. It's like they wanted Din to be somewhat flat. He's a character behind a mask. His dialogue is usually issued in monotone. That's kind of a shorthand for trauma that he's experienced, and that's fine. But he has to have some development, and they have given him some, but I feel like they've gotten to a point where they're not quite sure what to do with him right now. They don't feel like they can go hard bounty hunter because there's the father-son dynamic. The father-son dynamic is honestly what drew a lot of people in because that's core to the Mandalorians, and it makes Din a very sympathetic character, and women love the cute aspect of Grogu. I'm not a Grogu hater, but you can't just rely on the cuteness either. And you get into an uncomfortable place when you're having the Mandalorian drag this kid along where there's going to be acts of violence. You had alluded to that when you said that there was a cut scene in Season 3 where the IG droid was supposed to have blasters that he was going to use, and Disney pulled the plug on that because they don't want to see a kid using guns, which I understand. That's perfectly fine. But it leaves them in a narrative position where it's difficult to appeal to either side of the audience. Separating them for a while allows them to explore Din as a bounty hunter doing bounty hunter things, having a darker edge to him while trying to deal with the fact that he's unbalanced because his surrogate son isn't there. We got a little bit of that in those episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, and I think that more of that could have been used. You could have shown character development on both sides because they're hurting because they're separated. And the relief that you get when they do reunite, that would be earned. And so I think that by shortcutting that, I don't know that they had to be separated the entire season, but I think that they got rushed together way too quick. But I do think that the focus really does need to be on Din and Grogu at this point. I liked the idea of doing an ensemble show. I liked the idea of having a big epic quest where there's the retaking of Mandalore. I just think they flubbed it. So at this point, I think you have to go back to doing what worked. Now, one other thing that I have been kind of chewing on, and I haven't really made up my mind, is let's forget about the sequel ties to start with. Let's forget about the episode where you have Dr. Pershing being the star of the show. Let's forget about the aspects of the Shadow Council that we're dealing with, Brendel Hux and the First Order and all of that stuff. Let's say, for the sake of a theoretical argument, those elements weren't there. If you didn't have those, and let's say that you pulled maybe half the episodes of the season, if you only had 4 episodes,
so let's pull 3. Let's pull 6. What's your other one you want to pull?
I'm trying to think because I think that I may be forgetting 1 or 2.
I could pull the first one. The first one, in my opinion, was just. I mean, I don't really want to watch a creature the size of about 10 blue whales jump out of water that looks like it's about 6 feet deep.
Yeah, but I do think you needed the first episode as kind of a setup. I agree it's boring, it's short, it's not a real great episode, but I do think that you need something there.
Can we pull the one with the doctor who we saw in the first season? Because I got 5 minutes into that episode, and after the TIE interceptors were done, I was like, okay, I'm done, I'm out. All I wanted to see was the ships.
See, I loved episodes 2 and 4. I actually thought episodes 2 and 4 were great.
Well, two was the best of the entire season, maybe. If you take the final episode just as a complete standalone and ignore everything else about it and what it means for the series, it's not a bad episode. But 2 is probably, in my opinion, the best.
I think I would take 2, 4, 7, and 8. And I think you could edit 7 and 8 together to do one long episode as kind of an event movie. And then if you had written Gideon, I thought Gideon was way out of character for these last 2 episodes. Yeah,
which makes sense because it's childlike content this season.
That was the weirdest thing for me, is that Gideon, I know that some people, I know John Trent took issue with this. He really does not like the Gideon character at all from any of the seasons. I liked him seasons 1 and 2. I thought that he showed himself to be an intelligent character who was a threat. John's point is that he hasn't really had any victories, but that didn't mean that he couldn't. So I think if you had taken just 2, 4, 7, and 8, made Gideon a bit more competent and not killed him off, maybe this could have been a good season. I don't know. Do you think it improves things if you do that?
Well, there'd be some interest because right now all we've got is Pa Ingalls, raising baby Grogu out there on Little House of the Mandalorian. So it's going to be I don't know. I'm not thrilled about it. I'm not excited, but I do know why they did it, and we'll talk about it next week. I want to share, though, Lauren, one last thing before we all hop off, and I'm going to give you guys both a chance to share your thoughts on this. But I want to share with you a chart that is the most favorable to Star Wars, period, and yet it's not much better. If we just compare, and again, folks, this is over 90 days. This is everybody out there in the United States, potentially Canada, all of North America. We don't know how Google aggregates this, but over the last 90 days, searches for just flat out Harry Potter and Star Wars. Now, I don't like using these search terms because they're too broad. They're not specific. You don't know why people are searching for them. That said, still, it proves the point. Take a look at earlier this year, the red line for Harry Potter, okay? Just people searching Harry Potter. And we all know Hogwarts Legacy is a huge game. Look at that. Look at the bump, which lasts days and days and days and weeks, and compare that to the very end where you see the little blue bump that pops up over Harry Potter, gets it over Harry Potter. That's Star Wars Celebration. Compare that where they announce Rey, where they announce a 3 new movies, then they give us information on the Acolyte, all this stuff. That's the bump compared to Hogwarts Legacy. And folks, if you don't see that Harry Potter is dominating Star Wars at this point, I don't know what else to tell you. This is the most favorable chart, and I don't even like it because I don't know how much you can actually learn from these two terms being this broad, because you're not doing an item versus an item. But it just doesn't get better when you look at Star Wars' biggest weekend. They only do it once every 2 years now versus a video game. It's just amazing. Stephen, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. What do you make of this Star Wars Celebration versus Hogwarts Legacy? Not even Celebration able to even approximate what happened in terms of searches. I mean, look at the thing.
I want to say something, and I don't want the audience that watches this later to think I'm being mean.
You want to say that this looks like an anthill versus Everest. I know. What is it you want to say, Stephen?
This is what Star Wars has become.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Star Wars is dead. I was going to say,
no,
Jonas.
Say Star Wars is dead. No, Jonas
make everybody mad.
I'm not going to say that. But no, I would not even say that Star Wars is dead. I'm saying this is what happens when you let Disney control a property, aiming it at princesses and totally forgetting that there's also princes.
That's a great point. And warriors. How about that? Mm-hmm. All right, Stephen, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there?
You can find me on my channel or in the basement of Park Place doing thumbnails. And you can find me on VR working in the attic, which is the reverse basement, doing thumbnails.
The Michelangelo of the YouTube space, Fat Stephen.
And you can find me on Rumble, which is doing very well.
Absolutely. Your Rumble is exploding. It is fantastic to see. Perhaps the competitor has been holding you down a bit, and it's nice to see you being freed and all those people choosing to watch your fantastic content. Highly recommend people go check out Stephen and all his content. Lauren, final thoughts on what we've seen. Have I missed anything? Has it been overstated, or do you think that Harry Potter truly is this popular? And before you answer, let me say this one last thing, because there's going to be some criticism if we don't say this. I want people to consider, on the Harry Potter side of things, there has literally been one video game and one announcement that they're going to recast and reboot, but that didn't come until just very recently. On the Star Wars side of things, you have many shows, many movies being announced, Star Wars Celebration, video games, etc. And yet, that one game from Harry Potter, and I mean, really, it's been so soon, it doesn't even show up yet, the recasting announcement. Harry Potter, just on the one game, is beating everything that Star Wars is throwing. So, Lauren, play devil's advocate. Where am I wrong? Is there hope for Star Wars? And what are we going to see in the future that might draw people back to it?
I can't really play devil's advocate in this case. What I
He
think
just
I
can't
might
be a Sith.
What I think I might say, and this is kind of like third party because I'm not the target audience for Harry Potter. I've read the books, I enjoyed the movies, but it's not my thing. On the other hand, it is my ex's thing, and my son loves it. And I was at Universal Studios Florida here this last week, and I saw grown people walking around with robes and wands. Harry Potter succeeded at generational capture, and Star Wars has kind of released that crown. I don't think it can be restated any other way. Not having played Hogwarts Legacy, there's a number of people at my workplace that have, people of ages that you might not expect. And again, not having played it, what they've told me is that one of the smart things that they did is it takes place in an era that's about 100 years before the books and movies, as I understand it. So they're in an area where even if there's a storytelling faux pas, it kind of limits the damage that could be done to the later stuff. And it's faithful to the source material. It captures the tone. You have to do that in storytelling. You have to respect what the property is. Lucasfilm and Disney aren't doing that, and that's why they're suffering. The audience no longer trusts them. That's why you're not seeing people. I thought I was going to buy Jedi Survivor. I haven't committed to a purchase. I'm like Stephen was saying, I'm waiting to see what people say about it. I'm not going to buy it until I know it's not going to make me mad.
Great points, Lauren. And, when creators respect the source material, they respect the fans who love the source material. And that's what it comes down to. Lauren, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web?
You can find me at Lauren Connor on Twitter and at Lauren Connor 9030 on YouTube. And you can find me on That Park Place and occasionally in the chat on Valiant Renegades live streams on Sunday.
What? Are you not going to be in my chat ever? Darn you, Lauren. Darn you.
Well, if you can do it on a holiday where I'm not at work, then yeah, I'll jump in.
That time zone difference gets us every time.
I have a statement for both of you right now.
What do you got, Stephen? Ah!
That's pretty much.
Well, Lauren, it's fantastic to have you, Stephen. Great to have you guys on. Appreciate both of your opinions. You're both experts in these areas. Lauren in Star Wars, Fat Stephen in video games. And we hope all of you out there enjoyed this content. If you do, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. We're talking about that notification bell. Don't forget to drop a comment down below. This is not just three people talking, but we care about your thoughts. You matter to us. You help us know the direction to go in future videos. So drop a comment down below. We'll read them. We'll check them out. We'll see what you think. If you're interested, for the price of a soda, you can become a member of this channel and get exclusive content. That's up to you. You'll still continue to get all the great stuff here that you're used to and expect, but we do have some extra bonuses behind the scenes. Lauren, we got to get your channel up and going soon. People are becoming huge fans of everything you think about Star Wars. And Stephen, great to see you exceeding expectations over there on Rumble once the chains are loosened and you are able to take off all on your own. Folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.